Hello, my name is Yolanda Olivares, and today I'll be talking about the women's rights movement and the temperance movement. In my opinion, I believe these two reform movements played a major role in what our society is today, mainly affecting women's rights and laws created against drugs. Moving along, in this video there will be three different parts. The first part is about how this reforms movement started. The second part is some questions that I try to argue about. And lastly, the third part is about the outcome of the reform movements. And so, let's get started. So, taking a look at history, we can find several causes for the two movements, starting with the women's rights movement. So this goes way back into the Second Great Awakening. Many women participated in this awakening, but they were mostly inspired by the 19th century reforms, which is the temperance and the moral reform, and by the British women's rights movement. So in my opinion, I guess women saw this as a cause and as an idea that if the British could, why couldn't they too? In another document signed by Lucy Stone and Henry Blackwell, before they were married, it shows how women were restricted to, like, they couldn't have custody of their children, they couldn't inherit the land if their husband died. So maybe women were just fed up about all of these restrictions and they wanted to speak for themselves. So changing of topic to the temperance movement, its foundation was also in the Second Great Awakening. At that time, the idea was to rectify or correct the abuse or wrongs in society. Most evangelics pledged to abstain from strong drinking. Some other causes stated by a document from National Temperance Almanac of 1576, it states how a lot of people were becoming poor and how the prisons were getting filled up by criminals. In another document, in 1912, the author talks about how alcohol was a major health crisis. So it could have also been because how it affected many people, how their organs and the brain and whatsoever. So this is several of the causes for both of these movements. So moving on. I have created several questions that I will try to answer. The first one is, so were these two movements inspired by religion? This kind of has a solid answer, which is yes, by the Second Great Awakening and by the evangelics. Yet, doesn't the Bible mention something about the role of a woman where it's supposed to be? So it's controversial that the Second Great Awakening inspired women to fight for the rights, yet the Bible says this. So that's where my idea is. The second question is, did drinking really cause so much problems like poverty, crime, and family violence? In my opinion, yes, drinking may have some faults in crime, yet there's people who they don't have to drink and they still kill. There's men who aren't drunk and they still hit their wives and their children. So maybe drinking isn't the major cause, it's just a little part of it. So that's how I think we should look at it. So moving on to the third part. Lastly, I'm going to explain how women's rights movement and the temperance movement were successful. So on women's rights movement, based on a document by Robert L. Owen, this movement allowed better wages for women for equal work and the protection of children. For example, disabled children who needed special care. Then in 1920, the 19th Amendment took place allowing women to vote, which is really good. That means they actually achieved their goal. Now changing of topic to the temperance movement. The temperance movement had two amendments, the 18th and the 21st. The 18th Amendment banned the manufacturing, sale, or transportation of alcohol. However, because it was increasing crime, it was replaced by the 21st Amendment, which allowed states control over alcoholic beverages. So although they didn't terminate alcohol, they kind of had a boundary and a limit to it. So it's something for them trying to be successful. So after analyzing several information, we can understand that the women's rights movement and the temperance movement both had their fair share in society. So thank you for listening. Goodbye.